The UK-Germany treaty was signed today in London, the first bilateral treaty between the two countries since World War II. Closer cooperation on defense and migration, climate and the environment, economics and trade, as well as joint research projects. The agreement even included provisions for a direct rail link and easing restrictions on travelers. After the bitter divorce from Europe that was Brexit, the UK is making strides to rekindle its relationship with Europe's two biggest powers, first France and now Germany. And now joining me to discuss the current trajectory of Britain's relations with the old continent is Daniela Schwarzer, Executive Board Member of Bertelsmann Stiftung. Hello. Oh, there we have you. Okay, hello. Thank you very much for joining us on World News tonight. Now, defense and the war in Ukraine seem to have been the catalyst for this reset in the relationship. On this top line, what types of projects do you think that they are going to work on together, and just how extensive will this part of the relationship be?
Well, first of all, you're very right that the UK seems to be reconsidering its relationship with the European Union and its most important member states. Because the geopolitical situation on our continent has changed with Russia's war on Ukraine and the new security concerns. And so we have seen a number of bilateral initiatives by the UK government with partners in EU member states, but also the first UK-EU summit, which took place in May, which also, kind of was the kickoff for more in-depth discussions on the future relationship of the United Kingdom with the European Union as a whole. And now for the treaty between Berlin and London, I think there are several notable points. One is indeed in terms of defense cooperation, pretty concrete industrial projects on missiles, on armored vehicles, and other elements where clearly an industrial interest is visible to cooperate, also to agree on export rules where Germany is more restrictive than other countries. And so here we see a step forward. And then there is a lot about people-to-people exchange, easier access to the UK and vice versa for citizens, school exchanges, academic and research connections. So it's not just a treaty that responds to the new security situation, but really a situation which I think is not of mutual interest between the UK and Europe, that working with the UK in economic terms and political terms and defense terms has become so much more difficult after Brexit. And finally, there's one element, which is migration, where both sides signed agreements to actually fight illegal migration flows across the channel, again, a topic of mutual interest. And so I think it's a pretty encompassing working agenda that both sides have set out.
Another provision in this agreement are that the two countries will co-lead the reconstruction of Ukraine and hold annual summits on the matter. Do you think that this means that Germany and the United Kingdom will seek to have the biggest piece of the pie when it comes to reconstruction in Ukraine?
I don't think it's about pieces of the pie at the moment, but about a strong commitment. Germany is, in terms of individual country contributions, the largest supporter of Ukraine at the moment, both in military terms and financial terms, and also in humanitarian terms. So there is a strong commitment. The UK equally have supported Ukraine since the outbreak of the war in very substantive terms. And I find it interesting that both sides now, in addition to supporting Ukraine to fight off Russia's attack, they think beyond and prepare for the reconstruction question. But this has to be seen as part of a larger effort. There have been various Ukraine reconstruction conferences. One of them took place in London, one took place in Berlin. But this initiative has traveled around Europe, and it's very important to have the buy-in of more countries, and in particular also Poland as such a close neighbor to Ukraine, France as well, which is the second largest economy in the Eurozone, so in the European Union. So it will have to be a joint European effort, and hopefully it comes to the moment where reconstruction of Ukraine really pushes to the centrality of the agenda.
Certainly. Now, when the current Polish government came into power, we saw many images of the four leaders getting together, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, and Poland. Yet lately, we see just the big three. Is there anything that we can read into that? Has Poland been frozen out in some way, or in one way or the other?
I don't see any proof of that. I think also from a German perspective, and the German Chancellor said this very clearly when he came into office, he wants to bring Germany to a more central role in Europe. He believes strongly that although Germany is the largest economy and is going to be the largest defense spender in European comparison, it needs to work closely with neighbors and friends in the European Union. And interestingly, he mentioned two countries from the start, France and Poland. And during his first day in office, he visited both capitals, Paris and Warsaw. This was seen as a very strong and intended symbolic gesture. And of course, I think that the Franco-German relationship is closer by definition. Historically, it has been closer. It is supported by a very regular meeting schedule. And the German-Polish relationship still needs strengthening. And then there's also the trilateral format, which needs to be revived and can be filled substantively. So I hope that we reach a moment where that question from a Polish perspective doesn't need to be asked, because it has become natural that Germany's relationship with Poland are closer than they have been over the past years.
And we have about 1 minute left. I'd like to ask, Ukraine just had its first government reshuffle since the full-scale invasion. What are your thoughts on Kyiv's positioning at this time by making this shakeup in the government?
Yeah, I think the domestic political situation in Ukraine has become more complicated recently. Also a lot of criticism within the country, but also from the outside. And I do believe that this is an attempt to put a more functional government again into place and to fend off the criticism. But it remains to be seen how, under the very dire war conditions, this is going to work.
All right, Daniela Schwarzer, Executive Board Member from Bertelsmann Stiftung. If I say that right, thank you very much for joining us on World News tonight. We appreciate your analysis. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And that concludes this edition of World News Tonight. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time. Good night.